One way or another, we're getting a damn Snyderverse. So Army of Thieves tells the story of a quirky safecracker hired by a mysterious woman to pull off a series of heists. Welcome back to the Snyderverse, everybody. The other Snyderverse. The Army of Thieves, Army of the Dead, and however many more of these movies we get Snyderverse. And if you did not see, I did fully review Army of the Dead earlier this year. And it was a movie that I definitely enjoyed and had a good time with, but I felt it was a little bit bloated and a little bit self-indulgent on Snyder's part since, you know, in reaction to his treatment at WB, he was able to do whatever the hell he wanted with Netflix, and there's good and bad that comes with that. Now, this is the first of what's supposed to be even more spin-offs and sequels and prequels of Army of the Dead, and this one is focusing on the character of Dieter. Now, if you watched that review, you found out that I wasn't really the biggest fan of Dieter. I didn't hate him, but there was certainly quirks about the character that I thought was a little bit annoying and thought was a little bit overused in Army of the Dead. So to be honest with you, I really didn't have very high expectations for this movie, and finding out that Zack Snyder himself was not even directing this, it was actually the actor who plays Dieter, I had even more reasons to be reserved about my expectations. And shame on me, because I actually had a damn good time with Army of Thieves, and when it was over, I really have the hankering now to go back and watch Army of the Dead again, and maybe I will enjoy his character much more than I did the first time. So starting off with the positives of Army of Thieves, I thought this movie had a really fun pace and a really fun style to it. This is definitely much more of a romantic comedy heist film. It's not a horror film, it's not an action film, it is a very different genre than Army of the Dead, which is very unique. It's not often you see a prequel or a sequel or a spin-off to a movie that's not even in the same genre. This is not for zombie fans, this is for heist fans or fans of this character. And the way that it was directed by Matthias, the guy that plays Dieter, has a really fun, quirky style that actually matches the personality of the character, which I thought was really cool. It's got this kind of zany editing style to it once in a while. It's got a very frantic, fun pace to it throughout where we're having fun. There's certainly tense moments. There's certainly some action scenes here and some scenes where they're doing a heist and, you know, the police are right there hot on their tail to where you're really on the edge of your seat and hoping that these characters make it out, but you have fun the entire way. It's not a movie that gets overly dark at any moment, and that just kind of adds to that character personality of Dieter to where he's just endlessly positive and kind of naive and is almost like a child in a certain way with his wonder of the world and his curiosity for this little ragtag group of thieves that he gets worked in with, and it was a lot of fun.
So is it like in a movie film where each one of us has a different skill set and it's only working together that we can pull off that which needs the pulling off?
Yes.
And there was even a really cool visual style to whenever he's doing the actual safe cracking scenes, which I had a lot of fun with. It was some of the most fun that I had in the movie was just seeing the interworkings of the engineering of these safes. You know, he'll turn a dial or he'll hit a switch and it shows the inside of the safe and how things are locking together and pulling apart and spinning around and resetting itself. It was a really cool visual style that certainly matches with somebody like Zack Snyder. It's not the same, but he's always somebody that gives huge visuals. He's a visual storyteller. So being that this is within that same universe, I thought it was a cool way to have its own visual style all on its own while standing out completely. And one of my biggest surprises about this was the cast and the characters that we get in this little ragtag group of thieves. Honestly, I enjoyed this group of characters more than I enjoyed the characters in Army of the Dead, and that was a pretty good cast. This one is just so much fun to where you get Dieter himself, who's just very zany and kind of quirky and neurotic the entire time, and he's scared to do all this stuff, but he's got the heart of gold. Gwendolyn's more or less the one that gets them all together, and she's kind of got this mysterious element to her where you feel she's got a lot to prove to herself as well as the world. You've got Karina, who's a really fun character and has a lot of really good interaction with both Dieter and Gwendolyn, and some of the best moments of the movie is between her and Gwendolyn and that friendship that they have. There's a scene where they're sitting inside of Dieter's apartment in the dark, and when he comes in, they're supposed to make this, you know, cinematic movie cliche entrance where they're sitting in the dark waiting for him, and he never notices them, and they're like, this is awkward. Do we say hello? Do we let him know? And no, it's been too long. It'll be awkward now. Just wait for him to see it. But I really did enjoy just the story we went along and the character arc that we go along with Dieter, to where he's this recluse. He's this guy that works a bank teller job and, has a YouTube channel where he's got 0 subscribers and 0 views and 0 comments, and just getting one comment excites him all to hell. And then he gets to go on this larger-than-life adventure, which almost has that classic James Bond style of like this globe-trotting adventure where they're going around to these different banks and cracking these huge epic safes. The whole thing along the way where he is growing and learning to be a freer person, and learning to be much more of a sociable person, while also having a little bit of a love story with Gwendolyn. I really enjoyed it from start to finish. For a character that I had no interest in ever seeing again, this movie made me a fan. And they even took some of the elements that annoyed me in Army of the Dead, where he's screaming at the top of his lungs like a little girl and just acting really neurotic, and just made it fit better here. I don't know if it's just the tone difference between a movie like Army of the Dead that's very dark and bloody and violent to a movie like this that's very quirky and fun, but something about the character just worked better in this context for me. And I genuinely am curious to go back and watch Army of the Dead and see if, with all of this backstory and with this better understanding of the character, if I will enjoy him more in that film. And finally, the thing that I was left with by the time the credits rolled with this movie that I'm really grateful for its existence for, is that it genuinely does make me want to see more films, more characters, more spin-offs and sequels and prequels in this universe with all of these characters, and maybe even some new characters. Because for somebody that definitely enjoyed Army of the Dead but wasn't over the moon about it, that's not necessarily a movie I walked out of and said, I want to see so much more in this world. Army of Thieves makes me want that. I want to see more about Dave Bautista's character before that movie. I want to see more of what happens after Army of the Dead, and maybe get other backstories, like for the guy that actually put all these safes around and is kind of the central antagonist that we never really get to talk much to in Army of the Dead. This is a movie that does give me hope and give me excitement for another Snyderverse. Now, moving on to the negatives, it must be said there's not really anything new in this movie. There's not anything that's reinventing the wheel or anything that's kind of transcending the heist genre. Every single thing that they do in this movie, from the globe-trotting to the safe cracking to the betrayals and the double crosses, we've seen it all done before. This is not anything new. I mean, if you like the subgenre, if you like some of the tropes and the cliches that go along with it, you're probably going to enjoy this just fine and not really have an issue with it. If you're somebody that's looking for a movie that's really going to do something new with the heist genre, there's not anything here for you. It's pretty much the same thing you've seen before. And one element that I thought they really dropped the ball on here that's a pretty integral part to a great heist film is, I thought that the character of the main agent that's trying to hunt all these guys down, because keep in mind, we are following technically the antagonists of the story. The protagonist of the story, the Interpol agent, I thought he was really over the top. I thought that he was a little bit ridiculous, and he certainly didn't win me over to where there was no point where I ever was on his side or ever wanted him to win, or even with the shittier people in this group that are definitely bad guys and bad people. I didn't even really care if he got them, because they were more entertaining, more likable than he was. And I think that's a balance you gotta have in a movie like this. We need to be reminded that we are following the bad guys. We are following people who are breaking the law. Even though we enjoy their characters and we certainly enjoy their back and forth, you need to have somebody like an Al Pacino in Heat that you like them just as much, and so if things go in their favor by the end of the movie, or if they don't, there's some emotional weight to it. But all in all, guys, I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I actually think for what it was trying to do, I might have even enjoyed this a little bit more than Army of the Dead. I need to give that a second watch, but regardless, by the end of the movie, I want to see more in this world. I want to see more in this Snyderverse of the dead. We'll start that hashtag. So if you're a fan of Army of the Dead and you want to see more of the Dieter character, this movie is certainly up your alley. If you like heist films, if you like romantic comedies, I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of enjoyment out of this story. So definitely check it out on Netflix this Friday when it drops. And if we ever get a physical release, go out and buy it. So what do you guys think of Army of Thieves? Do you like this more than Army of the Dead? Did you think that this was a misstep? Are you interested in more people and more stories and more spin-offs in this universe, or are you pretty much done and just want Zack Snyder to move on to something else? Let me know down below. And also, guys, please like and share this video to get more eyes on it, get some more subscribers. And if you are finding me for the first time, like I said, I have reviewed Army of the Dead, and I plan on reviewing whatever else comes out of this universe, but we are knee-deep in the Crow franchise right now this week leading up to Devil's Night and Halloween. And then we also have 31 on 31 coming on the 31st, which is a big ranking video of a bunch of horror franchises that we do annually on this channel. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss out on any of that fun. Thank you guys for watching as always, and remember, opinions are like assholes, but it doesn't mean that you have to be.